Dry conditions are making way for an early start to the construction season. Find out what roads will be impacted and what to expect in 2021. Plus, we need your input for future projects to boot. We'll tell you how and what may be coming up in 2022 already. And I answer your questions from the mailbag. It's all coming up this week ahead. Yes, it all begins this week ahead. The grass is greening, people are out walking, enjoying our weather, and it's time once again to make all of you motorists' life a living hell. Okay, I'm kidding here. It's actually us trying to make it better. But first, we do have to mix in just a tiny bit of inconvenience. It's construction season. Yes, that's right. This week ahead, we kick it off with our first major street project breaking ground. Orange traffic cones will line Burdick Expressway from Broadway to about 3rd and down to Valley Street. Head-to-head traffic is in your future, and left turns probably aren't for that stretch of street. This project will not only give us a brand new surface on what is considered one of our worst major arterial roads in Minot, but it will also have great improvements to water and sewer, plus really great improvements to ADA accessible ramps from about 16th Street Southwest to 27th Southeast. It's a big project. It all starts Thursday, and it will last throughout the summer. Of course, this is only one of the many things we'll be doing this season. We're just scratching the surface. You know, we have a major chip seal project coming up, concrete work. It's all coming up, and it all starts this week ahead. This, of course, is one of the first of many communications about construction. And so it all begins. But before it begins, let's see what's not only this week ahead, but this season ahead. I want to bring in two guests today. First, our assistant city engineer, Emily Hiddle, and then, of course, our project engineer, Jesse Berg. Hey, you two, thanks for joining us this morning.
Morning, Derek.
Hi, Derek. Thanks.
Okay, I want to dive into a little detail on Burdick in a minute, Jesse. That's when we'll bring you in. But first, let's talk big picture stuff. The public can get a look at everything across the city, Emily, and it's all right there on our website. What projects should we be looking forward to this season?
Yeah, so things that we will be looking at this year, just to show you on the map here, we're going to be talking about them this morning, but we want everyone to always be able to access it on their own at any time. A couple different ways that we can get there through the city's website, going through the engineering department page to the GIS tab to get to the maps, or a little bit faster, region, city maps, a couple different ways, but what you're trying to do is to get to this City of Minot open data with all of our GIS maps. So lots of things on here, but what we're going to focus on today is this construction projects map. So this is always here for everyone to access. We'll be updating that throughout the year. This gives you an overview of all the construction, the legend here, kind of breaking it down for you with the flood control, water, sewer, our major and minor street projects, street, of course, being what we're going to focus on today. We have here, you can click on any piece, get additional information about it, who the contact person is. So when you have questions about a specific project, you know exactly who to call. In the future, we'll update these things with who the contractor is, some scheduling. All of this is right here on the website for people to access throughout the year.
So this is again, a quick kind of link you can have. I'll put it up on the screen here real quick. It's minotnd.org/projects. This will get to you. This outlines everything up for 2021. So I want to get into the different types of construction we do, but I want to focus on what things we can kind of expect, and maybe more lay out some of the history of what the history about our road maintenance. In the past, the city engineer, Lance Meyer, He's outlined what our current road conditions are in aggregate across the entire city. It's moderate to good. I think the score was about in 70s or so, right, Emily? Is that driving?
Yep, yep. The PCI overall, not too bad.
Yeah. So he mentioned that what we need to do to maintain that not so bad status, and also what we need to do to improve upon it. The council has taken sort of his recommendation under advisement, and really it was, we need more money to maintain our roads, and then even more if we wanted to improve them. And they've been doing something like that. They've been putting more resources towards upkeep of our current roads. How much are we spending this year exactly on everything that we see on that little map there?
Yeah, so this is a little bit of a mix because, we also have flood control projects in here that we're not going to talk about. We also have a couple 2020 projects that are carryover. So those are essentially already paid for, still showing up on this map. But as far as new street maintenance for this year, we're looking at over $5.5 million, 5.7, I believe, in that ballpark, which is definitely an increase from a few years ago. The thing that's also been changing over the years is the breakdown, kind of the split between how we allocate that money between these major, what we've called kind of major projects and minor projects.
Okay, so what kind of major projects are we looking at this year then, Emily? Or maybe we can bring Jesse in here to sort of join us. We kind of cast him off in the corner a little bit. Jesse, please chime in any time you want to. So the goal on a lot of this on our maintenance is to make sure that we don't get things so bad that we have to rebuild it, which is ultimately way more expensive. Is this season of projects any different in how we've kind of managed our maintenance or reconstruction in the past seasons, or are we kind of running par for course?
Derek, I'm going to use a term that's kind of come to light in 2020. Is I believe this is going to be more of the new normal, if you will, for our road construction.
Someone needs to patent that phrase this year, I think. Some money there.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to make sure that we're investing in our road infrastructure that is in that good condition. So that's where we're seeing this chip seal project. And that chip seal project, we take those roads that are above our critical PCI and we patch them, crack seal them, chip seal, and then fog seal. So there's kind of 4 phases that roll through there that we do. And what that does is that keeps those roads again above that critical PCI and keeps kind of when we schedule that maintenance, keeps them bumping above that PCI, so we don't let our roads that are in good condition get below that critical PCI, and then we have to do other measures. If they're below the critical PCI but still in good enough condition to do some improvements, those improvements might be mill and overlay, which we consider a major improvement. And then what we try to do is mill and overlay or chip seal before we let the road go into such a condition where it needs to be reconstructed. And that's because our backlog of reconstructions is just so high. We aren't able to address all of those, so we can only do a couple of those a year because of that large capital expense. So the best thing we can do for our road network is maintain those roads that are in good condition, mill and overlay those roads that are starting to get below that critical PCI, and then really try and pick off 1 or maybe 2 of the worst roads that really do need a full reconstruct as we can. So, and that's what you'll see we're doing this year, and that's kind of what our plan is moving forward in the future.
So speaking of moving forward, we're really kicking the season off. I mean, there's been pockets of things that's already started, weather really permitting us to start a little earlier than typically. But I already mentioned that Burdick starts later this week. Can you take us sort of through that project? Give us an idea what we can expect for the construction that's happening this summer on Burdick.
Well, as you mentioned, this week, all anyone's going to see really is the pre-staging. That's going to go through kind of getting all of the traffic control signs set up. They're going to be on the side of the road. They will be in some areas on the sidewalk, but there will be an effort made to make sure that that is passable still for pedestrians. We want to make sure that, being that that is downtown, that everyone has access to where they need to go for foot traffic. And then once things, really when things start to get set up, is going to be that Monday, the following week, that we're going to start seeing traffic control be placed on the roadway, the head-to-head traffic. There's going to be some excavations started. Mostly they're going to be setting up the temporary water and those things, because the first phase of this project, specifically downtown, is going to be the water main replacement. And we're going to use primarily trenchless technologies, the horizontal directional drilling or pipe bursting. Those are going to be the two main techniques that we're going to be using downtown. And so it should kind of look like there's not a whole lot going on other than in a couple of pockets, but they are replacing all of the water. Derek, if you want to go to the shared screen here.
Sure.
There are these blue lines here that we have here on First Street Southwest, and here from Main Street to Second Street Southwest or Southeast on Burdick. That's the water line we're replacing, and then we have to reconnect all of those services along that route as well. And then they have to run temporary water during the time that they're taking that water line out of service. So it's a pretty critical project, especially being located near Trinity Hospital. We have to make sure our I's are dotted, our T's are crossed, both with traffic control and making sure that we have a good supply of water to the hospital. So we're trying to make sure that everything goes well there with weekly construction meetings and weekly almost pre-construction meetings, as well as those have already kind of got started. So that's the first phase that people are going to see. That will be the head-to-head traffic from 3rd Street southeast all the way to Broadway there on Burdick. And there'll be most of the time where access is onto Burdick in that location, on and off of Burdick on 1st Street Southwest, Main Street, 1st Street Southeast, and 2nd Street really won't be available for access. So just keep that in mind. But then what we'll see next with this project is after that phase is done, which we're anticipating somewhere towards the end of May, early part of June, that phase will be done. And then we'll be moving into the next phase, which will start the first part of June. And that is going to be the overall part of the project, where we're doing the ADA ramps at every corner of Burdick Expressway, all the way from 16th Street Southwest over by the high school, and then continuing all the way to the fairgrounds, and then 27th Street Southeast with those ADA ramps. And you should have little impact. There'll be locations of head-to-head traffic throughout that. While they're doing that, they have a pretty good phasing plan to get those done. As of right now, that is a DOT project, and the schedule for that is to have all of those ADA ramps completed before the fair. They could potentially propose a different schedule, but that's the one in place currently. And then what we would see after that is this final phase of the Burdick Expressway project, and that's going to be the mill and overlay project, where we'll be milling and overlaying Burdick Expressway from 1st Street Southwest all the way through Valley Street Southeast. So and what that'll have multiple lane closures. They'll be moving traffic, but they should be head-to-head traffic, one lane each direction, for the duration of that project.
Okay, so it's important to note that this is kind of a partnership with ND DOT as well. It's not just exclusively us, but it's a massive. This is the way I see this, and correct me if I'm wrong, you two. This is kind of our big road project for the season.
Sure.
Is that fair? Yeah, this is where most of the impact will be.
Yeah, definitely downtown with, the narrow right of way, the amount of traffic we have down there. This corridor is pretty tight. It's in pretty rough condition. Everybody knows that. So, yeah, Verdict is definitely our largest, most impactful roadway project that we're going to see this summer.
Okay, so let's look beyond Berthed a little bit. I know Jesse mentioned that there's a chip seal project, but what else are we looking for in 2021?
Yes, some of the other mill and overlays that we will see, 20th Avenue Northwest.
Do you want your map for this, Emily?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Okay, let's bring that up.
That way, I can rattle off street names, but
Yeah, it's helpful if we can see it, though, right?
Probably better to have reference. Now, our map is showing some carryover projects from last year, so we're going to come in and finish up 6th Street here from last year, but then we're going to mill and overlay 20th Avenue Northwest from 6th Street over to 16th. Also, you see a mill and overlay here on Sunset Boulevard. We might as well just bring it up right now because we know we're going to get the question. People are going to say, hey, you're right here. Why aren't you just paving all the way up to 21st Avenue? But
just let those trucks keep going, Emily. Just let them keep rolling by.
We're gonna we'll refer people back to the great interview that Derek did with the city engineer Lance Meyer a while back. This is outside of city limits. This is not a minor roadway right now. So we're gonna need to stop our work here at city limits. So that's the mill and overlay projects that we have going on in Northwest Minot. Also, then mill and overlay near the mall. Here we have 31st Avenue from Broadway to 16th Street. We'll be down here. This one will be pretty late in the year, so it'll be a while till we get back to that. That would be our other large mill and overlay project.
Okay, so we have pockets absolutely everywhere this year. What else have we missed on our conversation about construction projects that we can expect this year? Now, I want to make sure everyone knows this. I intend on having 2 separate conversations the next 2 weeks with both of you and a few of your colleagues on the process of construction. But right now, is there anything else that we've missed that people should be weary of as we approach the busy season for you guys?
I would say there's 2 more things we want to touch on. Okay. I'll leave maybe patching to the end and let Jesse tackle that one because that one's one of the trickier ones because we're kind of all over. But this is the first year that we are doing a separate concrete maintenance project. Usually we've just had a little bit of concrete roadway to take care of and we lump it all together. But over the past several years, the city's constructed more and more concrete roadways. So now we have enough concrete work that we're doing that as a standalone project. And that is on a couple major roadways. So people are going to notice that. Valley Street is one of the longest standing concrete roads we've had. Is really in good shape for its age, but it just is time for some repair. Minor repairs. So that will be happening this year. We also will have some concrete repairs on 37th Avenue Southeast. In both cases, those roadways are 3-lane roads, which makes it a little easier to kind of shift traffic around. We'll, have traffic control up to allow people to use that center turn lane as the driving lane in some areas. So shouldn't be too impactful on traffic. Our other concrete repair area is 16th Street around the 2 and 52 interchange here, in the area near CVS. If you drive this road, you know that this concrete is in need of some repairs. It can be a pretty rough ride. And this is a very busy roadway and very busy intersection. So we're going to have some impacts to traffic there. And those would be the main concrete projects that will be hitting this summer.
Okay, Jesse, what do you got for us?
So, as Emily mentioned, one of the other projects that we do have is patching. We don't really have it on the map here, but what we do is we go ahead and we, along with our crews from Public Works, we patch a lot of the potholes. We go through some areas, some strategically planned areas to try and patch that. So that's kind of a moving project. We don't identify how much work is happening where ahead of time. We just kind of identify where we're going to be working in any particular time. We'll probably be starting over just south of 4th Avenue Northwest, in that neighborhood over there, with the patching project, and just kind of moving clockwise around the central part of the city where we're not working on other projects. So, being that we kind of did the outer limits of the city last year with our patching project, we have to alternate because there's just so much patching that we have to do. We can't get it all done in a year to try and cover the whole city. So we try to rotate a little bit, and then do some strategic patching where we know we have to get to those areas. And that's a lot of what our Public Works in-house patching crews do. They're kind of our first line of defense there with the patching. They can get out, they're more mobile with that. They can get to those potholes. And so we're really thankful that we do have a crew internally that's able to do that. They meet a lot of that stopgap or just-in-time patching that needs to happen. And then I guess I would maybe go back to the street seal project, because that's probably going to be the one that's felt by most people. So Derek, if you want to bring up that map again.
Yeah, you got it.
The street seal is represented by everything in yellow on the map. So if you look, we're all the way from north to south, all the way down, and east to west. We've got pretty much, the entire city is going to get something in, all 4 quadrants essentially. And so what some of the more critical areas to maybe talk about is, we will be sealing South Broadway. When that's going on, there'll be traffic 1 lane in each direction. They'll be pretty much in and out, but it's going to feel like it's set up and taken down, and then set up again, and then taken down. So they might be wondering, why are they working here again? They just worked here. But again, there's multiple phases to that. So we're trying to lump some of those phases together so that it's not so many times that's happening. So our plan is to hopefully, working with our contractor, to get in there and patch, and then they won't see anything happen again for a little while. We'll crack seal. They may not see anything happen again for a little while, and then we'll chip seal and then fog seal again within the next 4 days. And so that piece is the critical piece for some of the local areas that we're working in. Neighborhoods, for example, we're working in some of these areas where there's a lot of cars that'll be parked on the street. So when we're working with this project, we often have to put up temporary no parking signs to get the work done, because our contractors are going to come in, they're going to be in there for a day in a specific area, and then they're going to roll out. But what's going to happen is, if those no parking signs are still up, we still want people to try to stay off of those areas of no parking, so that our contractor can come back within the next day or 3 or so, and finish up that work. And then once they see that that's been chip sealed and then fogged over again, which is that nice black coat that we get back on the top, that's when they're essentially done. All that's left is pavement markings, if there were any there before. So that's kind of the process of that project. As for some of the other critical things that we'll see, there's a little bit of flood control work that's left off. That's already started. I know we weren't really going to talk too much about it, but I saw they were out dozing the path for the shared use path along the wall here for phase 1. They were out there this morning. So, and then we've got some other projects, some sanitary sewer project, manhole lining project here through the country club, and our other water main projects. We'll be going through, along with the water main that's on verdict. We've got other locations where we have to do some strategic replacements, and probably they're the most critical one that people are going to be affected by is going to be this one here near Jim Hill. There'll be some times where 6th Street and 11th may be closed to traffic or closed to through traffic, and there could be some detours. So, and I'm sure, Derek, you probably are going to be meeting and talking with other people on that at another time. But I just felt like since we were talking traffic control and impacts to those drivers, that it was something important to note.
So I'm glad you gave us that little preview, Jesse. Yeah, we'll bring in Public Works in the coming weeks to kind of talk about some of the projects that they have going on. But it's a good, really primer for what we have today, and that's a lot of projects happening this year. It's a lot to keep keep in mind. So if you're looking for these projects yourself, you can go to our website to find this interactive map. You can go search and poke and prod and find out whatever you want to. Mine at nd.org/projects. Anything else, you two? We have time next week to talk a little bit more in depth in some projects. I don't want to keep you longer than I asked you to. But if you have any parting shots for us right now, now's the time to do that.
I guess it would just be make sure you're following traffic control. Don't try to sneak through. Those traffic control cones. That orange is there for a reason. That's to protect you. That's to protect the workers, and that's so that overall the job can get done safely.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you again, you two. I really appreciate you taking time with us this morning. Again, as I mentioned a couple times, consider this part one of a two-part conversation on construction. I'm making Emily and Jesse join us again next week. We'll go more into depth on how they plan for what projects happen in a given year, how they try to coordinate what they do with what Public Works does, how we loop in traffic and the traffic control, and how that kind of throws wrenches in what they do, and overall give us an idea on the complicated process of getting us to this point of shovel-ready projects. I know I said this is the busy season, but it's really not. A lot of your work happens all the other months. This is just kind of when we get to see it from an external side. So thanks again, you two. I appreciate it. I need to let you go. I got to wrap up. I got to get my second COVID shot here after this. So thanks again. I look forward to our next conversation next week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Derek.
Sounds good. Thanks, Derek.
All right, a little more on construction. This year's construction is just getting going, but we're still looking out for some future work. So this week ahead, we will start a virtual public input opportunity for 3 North Dakota Department of Transportation bridge projects happening in 2022 for the Minot area. Those are US 83 West Bypass Bridge, a US 2 bridge, Burdick Expressway Viaduct. You can go ahead and comment on these when that opens up on April 15th. The comment period is open up through the rest of the month of April, so April 30th. You can go to nd or dot.nd.gov and go find the quick link section and find public meetings. The most impactful of those 3 projects, again, US 83 West Bypass Bridge, US 2 Bridge, and the Burdick Expressway Viaduct, right off of what we're starting this week ahead. That one, the latter, the Burdick Viaduct project, is probably going to be one of the more impactful ones that you may see. So that might be where you want to focus your attention to. The scope of that work will include, an approach slab repairs or replacements, barrier wall repair or replacements, concrete paving, new lighting, new fencing, some pier and beam repairs, some deck expansion, joint replacement, and a lot of other smart things that the engineers told me about that I forget about. So go check out that public meeting. It opens up on Thursday. It's referred to as minor rehab, but our city engineer considers the work pretty substantial. Again, find the quick link section at that website below, and or dot.nd.gov. That's coming up this week ahead. Also coming up this week ahead, a couple special meetings for you to keep in mind. 2 meetings, in fact. They'll kick off our week. First, a special city council meeting on Monday, tomorrow at 5:30. Now, this one is sort of a work session for council. It's about a lot of capital projects, construction projects you will see in the future. That will be held in room 201 of the Minot Auditorium. This meeting is all informational for council. It is, of course, open to you and the public. You can come into room 201 anytime. Our city engineer will present the capital improvements plan, which is sort of a 5-year outline of the plans that we want to do and prioritize for big construction projects. But this meeting won't actually be live broadcast due to some technical restrictions. So keep that in mind if you want to attend that and be a part of that. That's 5:30 on Monday. Our next meeting on This Week Ahead is actually on Tuesday. It is the annual Board of Equalization. That's held by our city assessor's office. This one also 5:30 start time. It will be at City Hall. You can find the agenda at the Agenda Center. At minetnd.org/agenda center. That's all coming up this week ahead. Now, of course, rapid testing continues. So don't forget, we have been seeing some spikes in COVID cases across our state. So we still are administering some rapid tests at Fire Station 1 twice a week. Those hours for that are, let's see, it's 8 to 2 on Monday. Tuesday, it's 2 to 7. We have eliminated our weekend testing. But you still have those 2 days where you can actually test for that. Of course, you do need to pre-register. You can do that online at testreg.nd.gov. And these rapid tests will not help with any international travel testing requirements. They're just a quick kind of litmus test to see if you have enough viral load, if you suspect you may have some sort of infection. This is what those tests are for. Be sure to check, of course, if you are traveling with your destination on any kind of specific needs and specific testing that you may have. Here's another reminder that COVID-19 vaccines are available for anyone 16 and up through First District Health or your primary care provider. As I mentioned earlier, I'm due for my second shot here right quick. I'm going to get that second Pfizer shot. And Pfizer is actually the only vaccine that's available for 16 and 17-year-olds. So keep that in mind. That matters because when you make an appointment with First District, parents, this is for you. If you're trying to make an appointment for your 16 or 17-year-olds, you have to do that over the phone. You can't actually do that on the application because that application doesn't discern which different vaccines are required when you actually schedule that. So keep that in mind. You'll have to call them for that. All legal adults can schedule that vaccine appointment online at fdhu.org. You can go there for more information as well. Okay, I'm getting a little long in the tooth this weekend, but that's okay. There are no rules here, so we can keep going. I did promise that I would open up the mailbag to answer some of your questions, so here we go. My very first question comes from Scott Keene. It is there any plan to replace 3rd Street Northeast Bridge? And likewise, the pedestrian walkover bridge between Main Street and 1st Street. Okay, well, first, thanks for the question, Scott. It's very timely because this will be actually discussed at our special council meeting on Monday. But here's a sneak peek of what you can expect. In our capital improvement plan, which spans a 5-year time frame, with a list of many projects, like the pedestrian bridge, which is called the Ann Street Bridge, it's on there. When that gets done is a little harder to answer because the CIP is dependent on the grade of the project because it's scored against a bunch of different projects. And then also the budget that's allotted for some of those projects. They kind of try to fit those in. We'll talk more about that next week with our engineers. Also included in that CIP is that 3rd Street viaduct, but not the actual bridge itself. It's actually the south road of 3rd Street that is scheduled for some replacement. That 3rd Street viaduct was in the plan potentially to be redone, but that was only because of flood control. See, that bridge still has useful life inside of it. But original ideas where we may have needed to raise the railroad for flood control. Therefore, we would have had to raise the bridge. That's no longer the case. We went with a completely different alternative for MI5, which we'll be getting started here shortly. So that bridge will stay the same, at least for now, at least in the next 5 years. There's no plans on actually reconstructing that. So again, thanks, Scott, for your question. I'll do one more quick question. This one was actually left anonymously. It was, if I wanted to increase the size of my trash can, how can I do that? This is an easy process. All you have to do is send an email. Just kick one to me at info@minetnd.org with your address and name, and we'll get it taken care of. We had several people do that just this past week. I assume because of the holiday, they wanted to increase that size a little bit. But maybe don't rush to that too much because don't forget we do have spring cleanup week coming up here very shortly, in less than a month actually. That is May 3rd through the 7th. Make sure you go online, minetnd.org, to make sure you know what day your collection actually is. Of course, if you have any other questions like this, that you want answered, hit me up. We'll get that squared away for you. You can go to minetnd.org/mailbag, and we'll do our very best to get to that question as soon as we possibly can. Okay, that'll do it for me on this week ahead. Looking forward to the next week. We will continue our conversation on 2021 construction. We'll expand on today's conversation on how these projects come to be and the coordination that is needed to get us to this point. And of course, we really want to know if what we're doing here at the city for communication purposes is getting to you. I would really appreciate it if you went to minetnd.org/minetpio and filled out a quick survey. Tell me if this program is valuable to you. Tell me if you like our newsletters, if you're into the social media posts, or what we're missing. It's just going to help us try to reach you better, quickly, and more effectively. I would really appreciate that. And of course, you can find us online if you haven't already. At all of your social media platforms, at City of Minot, at cityofminot.nd on YouTube. Thanks for joining me. And of course, have a stellar this week ahead.